Everybody, my name is John Rujek. I'm the Vice President of Alumni Engagement for the University of Minnesota Alumni Association. And it's a pleasure to be doing this alumni panel this morning here in Minnesota, and depending on where you're tuning in from, possibly the early to late evening, but welcome to all of our alumni and friends around the world who are joining us today. Again, my name is John Rujek, and I'm the Vice President of Engagement for the Alumni Association. And today's panel is on new challenges around COVID-19 in the work world. And specifically, it's an alumni panel featuring some great alumni living in the Asia Pacific region, and we will be introducing them very shortly. We also are recording this webinar, so if you'd like to revisit it after the webinar today, or if any of your friends miss it, it will be available to view afterwards, and you'll be able to find that link from the Alumni Association website. Before we get into just a few quick housekeeping notes and the introduction of the panel, I do want to thank and also welcome my colleague Tim Wolf of the University of Minnesota University of Minnesota Foundation, who's the Director for International Development. And Tim, if you'd like to say a few words, and I welcome you to say something.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. I'll be quick. First, thanks to you and the Alumni Association for partnering to host this APAC event. As a global university, it's great to engage with alumni around the world and have this opportunity to share. My thanks to the panelists for their time and sharing their insights this evening and doing that, and look forward to hearing what they have to share. Hope everybody is safe and healthy. It's been a crazy year, but you know, this is a great opportunity for us to show the breadth and depth of our alumni, and look forward to doing more of these types of events, and hope everybody has a great day or evening wherever you're watching, and thanks again. Look forward to being in touch soon, and back to you, John.
Thank you, Tim. And just a quick plug with the Alumni Association, webinar series like these are supported in part by membership of our alumni and friends across the world. And if you're interested in learning more about the Alumni Association or membership, it's at umnalumni.org/membership. Also upcoming, we do have some virtual webinars coming up on September 9th around job search strategies, and then also September 29th, we will be doing an alumni panel on information technology, computer science, and data. And those are at umnalumni.org virtual. And again, if you can't make it live, or if the time zone doesn't work out, we do record them, and they can be consumed afterwards as well. If you'd like to ask, we only have an hour today, and we have a lot of things to cover, but I will be monitoring the Q&A chat. So if you do have some Q&A that possibly might be able to get in front of the panel, I'll be looking at that and moderating that, and you can feel free to add something using the Q&A chat button. But with that, I'm going to stop sharing of my screen and start sharing. Actually, just hold on. Does anyone know who Regent is? Sorry, I'm just wanting to make sure that. Okay. Sorry, just wanted to hide that for a sec. So first, I want to welcome Ed Lee, who's a 1976 Bachelor of Mechanical Engineering graduate from the College of Science and Engineering at the University of Minnesota. He is the owner, CEO of Seveco Global Limited in Hong Kong. Welcome, Ed. Next is Akira Nakamura, a 1992 Master of Business Administration grad from the Carlson School of Management. He is a general manager for Lotte Financial Corporation in Tokyo, Japan. And he also serves as on the University of Minnesota Alumni Association Board of Directors. Welcome, Akira. Next is Lakeesha Ransom, a double grad of the University of Minnesota, a 2003 Master of Arts in Educational Policy and Administration, and a 2007 Ph.D. in Education from the College of Education and Human Development at the University of Minnesota. She is the Executive M.B.A. Faculty Director and International Visiting Professor for the Asian Institute of Technology in Bangkok, Thailand. She also is a Regent Emerita who served previously on the University of Minnesota Board of Regents from 2001 to 2007. Welcome, Lakeesha. And last but not least is Marianna Zhao, a 2015 Master of Business Administration graduate from the Carlson School of Management. She's the Vice President for MechE International Business MechE Group in Foshan, China. Welcome, Marianna. All right, everyone. If as you start to speak, just unmute your mics. But I'll start with Ed first. Interested in just learning how the COVID pandemic has disrupted the respective industries that you're in, because you all represent different industries in your respective countries. So how has COVID disrupted things, and in what ways, and how have you responded to these new business environments? And I'll first start with Ed.
Okay. Thank you, John and Tim for inviting me to be joining this panel. I'm really flattered. Compared to the rest of you, I am really more senior in age, as you can tell from my graduation date, and I hope to be able to offer a different perspective from the old economy where I've been all my life. So since I was in manufacturing, mostly manufacturing for the North American market, the first half of the year we saw like about 40% drop in business. So we went through one round of restructuring, just hunkered down, and we weathered the storm. And the second half we are seeing a pretty sharp uptick. On the second half, we expect to be back to normal, pretty much. We're reaching the same level of business as last year. So this is from one particular instance in the main street out of an old economy. This is what we are seeing.
Thank you. Marianna, what's your perspective?
Hi. Hi everybody, and this is Marianna. And actually, before I answer you this question, and probably I need to introduce my company. And I'm not sure that so our alumni, they really know who MechE is. So we started from China, and we are definitely a global company, and ranked the place of 307 and in the global Fortune 500. And we have 4 business sectors: home appliances, HVAC and conditioning, digital business, and robotics and automation. And my role actually is I'm doing the branded business and for HVAC and home appliances, and for Americas and EMEA region. So this is important because the context is always important. And so how the COVID impact our business. And I should say that the most panic period was March and April, since my business is for the global one. In China, we locked down starting from January, and then gradually you see different waves. And from China, Asia, and then move to Europe and North America, Latin America. So my entire business actually were in lockdown station. So, however, and if we look back, and our business growth increased by 35% for the first half, 35%, and profit increased tremendously. And so what has been changed? The first of all, the way of doing business changed. And so the whole global team, and we learn a lot of best practice, which we did in China market. And we use those online platform and to evolve more business and to the online one, and also using the social media to engage more with the end consumers. And also we developed the online platform and to do the live streaming. And the mentality change is the most difficult one. And we took, I remember that, so starting from March, end of March, and we started to have the global weekly meeting. So every Thursday, so 9 p.m. China time and to midnight, and I have the global meeting with my global team. So this is really memorable period for us. However, we learned a lot, and we know that consumers' behavior is changing, and definitely the way to do business is changing as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Akira, what's your perspective from Tokyo, Japan?
Okay, to introduce myself, I've been in financial service industry for 33 years. So I experienced many crises of economy and the market for during my career. I started with the Japanese bank, and I experienced the bubble economy burst of Japanese economy in mid-90s. And also I moved to G Capital year 2000, and I was there for 11 years. During my service tenure, I experienced the 9/11 terror attack in 2001. Also, I experienced the 2008 financial crisis. And compared to those collapse of market or crisis, I felt a little bit different at this time of COVID-19, partly because financial industry used to be the kind of origin of those crises in 2011, 2009 financial crisis, or bubble burst economy of Japanese economy. So banks are target to be criticized. And then I was central part of those crises, and I felt fear every day at that time. But this time, the situation is a little bit different. And because the crisis is not the local one, but the global. And then impact of those crises is not certain for everyone. But and also going to take a little bit more time than the crisis we experienced before. So, and also financial industry is not the primary part of damage, but rather we are kind of the party to support those who damaged from this crisis. And we work together with the government to pump the money to the market to save those businesses who are have a difficulty. So the positioning of our financial industry is pretty different from the previous crisis. But I think, in general, our business and the financial industry is relatively stable for the time being because of the governments. Every country's governments are best effort to pump the capital money into the market. But I think we will see more and more bankruptcy in the later this year or early next year. So in that sense, I'm kind of fearful, scared what's going to happen in the coming month. This is the situation, I think.
Thank you, Akira. And Lakeesha, both as working with executive MBAs, but then also just with your experience in higher education in general, what's your perspective over in Bangkok?
You know, it's really interesting because we also, I think all of our countries are represented by the early wave of COVID. So, you know, outside of China, Thailand was earliest hit because there are many tourists that come to Thailand, and 20% of the Thai economy is based on tourism. And so we locked down in March and April. And as it relates to higher education, it's interesting because in some cases we've seen an uptick in enrollment. And primarily it's because some of the students who were accepted to institutions in the US or the UK simply can't travel there, or they want to be closer to home, or they feel safer maybe with some of the practices that are being more universally applied in Asian countries or in Thailand as opposed to some of the other countries. And so, you know, the higher education market, it's interesting. In fact, we're kind of delving into understanding a little bit better some of the forces that are at play as it relates to student enrollment. With our executive MBAs, you know, the target population for those students are, you know, working professionals at global companies. And so, you know, we've kind of slowed down a bit in terms of, you know, the intentions or the plans that we have, at least for this semester, and we've pushed things back to January of 2021. But I think that that market is, I believe that it will rebound. You know, and then in another space, I've been working with entrepreneurs. So one of the courses that I teach is in entrepreneurship. And so I've worked with UN Women with female entrepreneurs across Asia, and we've partnered with female entrepreneurs in the EU. And that's really been interesting, just to see the specific types of impact that that COVID has had on female-owned enterprises, given some of the industries that a lot of female entrepreneurs are represented in. So there are lots of moving pieces.
Thank you. With the next questions, I think I'll combo a couple that our panel has discussed in advance. So obviously COVID has disrupted a lot of the business or work environments. And so from your perspectives, I'll pose to the panel, what new ways of work or opportunities that you've seen arise? And then maybe just as the piggyback on that question, as far as, because I think we're all probably doing remote work right now, from a work standpoint, will we go back to more office-based, or do you see things being more remote in the future? And I'll let Marianna start first, just both as far as that question about what opportunities that you've seen arise in the new work environment, and also, you know, your thoughts as far as just remote work in general.
So since we are more 2C business, and so it's a human work, and to really to serve the global consumers, and we see the crisis, and definitely it's a threat and to the global economy, and we also see the rise of a geopolitical things. However, and as a leading company in this industry, we see that as an opportunity for us as well, because we closely monitor the global consumers' behaviors change. And what we can summarize is that, so even after the COVID, and definitely the living style and after the lifestyle changed completely. And so 3 aspects. The first one is that we see more and more consumers, and they are eating. So they are eating at home, and they spend more time at home, and they enjoy the personal life and enjoy the togetherness with the family, and they enjoy the fun to cooking at home. So since we are a home appliances company, and so definitely that drives us a lot of opportunities for that, and how to make consumers and feel safe at home and also have fun. Take my personal experience, and I never cook at home, and I never spent so much time with my little daughter. And since I'm always traveling, and thanks to this crisis, and I think that that's a lovely experience for me to spend time with my 4-year daughter. So that's grateful. And so this is the first one. And second one is that people will work at home, and even after the COVID, and we will see that this kind of social distancing and will keep for a longer time. And so how to make sure that when people work at home, and how to provide them a hygiene, healthy environment. So that will boom the air conditioning business. And also, so like in the United States, and our air conditioner business spikes. And because people just cannot bear the hot weather and in the States, right? And especially this year, and the States is really, it's very hot. So an air purifier and this type of things, and really can provide a very a great hygiene and to the consumers. And third one is a shop at home. And so I see a data, and actually that 59% of the consumers are shopping and will, or at least surfing the website and looking for the interesting products. And so, and that will drive the enterprise and also individuals and different behavior. And so for that, so how to make the organization more digital, and the sooner and you can move your organization to be more digitalized one, and definitely the more opportunities that you can obtain and from this crisis. Yeah, so that's all from my side. Yeah. Thank you, and I can absolutely relate to cooking more at home and those higher grocery bills. It's been surprising, but it's been a good, also as you mentioned, a good time to be around to children more as well in my family. Ed, from your perspective, what are you seeing?
Well, for us, it is we do not get as much benefit from this work from home environment, of course, because we're in manufacturing, and we've been adversely impacted because we are building a factory in Philippines right now, and my engineers cannot go there. So my schedule of that factory has been delayed for close to a year, more than half a year. So that's bad. The other side is the human impact. We have a lot of staff that is their families in Hong Kong, but for them to cross the border over to China into the factory, they have to go through the 14 days quarantine. So some of my staff has been going through a situation where he has not been able to go home for 3.5 months. So he, contrary to what Marianna has gone through, he got the other end of the stick. Is like he hasn't been able to see his daughter for 3.5 months. So that's the human cost that we see in this. Yeah, yes, the business carried on to a certain extent, but there is a for sure there's a cost that we're paying.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we've seen that here as far as during America's COVID pandemic, as far as people not being able to connect with their loved ones abroad or vice versa. So there definitely is that human cost. Lakeesha, from your standpoint in Bangkok, what are you seeing or feeling or experiencing?
Sure, and I would like to actually pick up on a couple of points that Marianna made as well. In my work with entrepreneurs, I can give you a couple of examples in terms of how people have shifted or pivoted toward launching businesses or moving into businesses that are food and consumer related. So one entrepreneur that I work quite closely with, her business was focused on ISO, so working with the Toyota dealerships across Thailand to making sure that their services met certain thresholds. And because people weren't driving as much, etc., that business it tanked a bit. And so a month ago, she collaborated with the Agricultural Bank of Thailand, and so she took the skill sets that her employees had in ISO and applied them to the palm date industry in Thailand. And it just so happens to be that that's an agricultural export that the country wants to leverage. And so now she's co-CEO of this huge venture at a national level. So she went from a manufacturing service quality business to one that's around dates, and not only the palm dates, but all of the different ways that that product can be used. Another team of entrepreneurs that I work quite closely with, they just received recognition as the top startup in Thailand, and they are a grocery delivery business that works with small scale farmers across the country. So they beat out 700 other startups to be recognized in this way. So I do think that there are opportunities that we're seeing given the agricultural base in Thailand. And just briefly, I just want to note, I'm working with a couple of my students who are from Nepal. So in your introduction to this particular question, you said, well, we're all, adjusting to working from home. And it's interesting, given the proximity of various markets in Southeast Asia, and the access that people have to the internet, et cetera, working remotely is an emerging trend in Nepal. And so one of my students, that's really what his thesis is exploring is, how does this work and will this last beyond COVID? And, how does that relate to job satisfaction and productivity? So it'll be really interesting to see what comes from that and other studies, and, as it relates to the pandemic.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, you make a great point, just as far as where in some parts of the world or in we might make, or in certain cities, we make assumptions about accessibility to being able to work remote or have a good Wi-Fi signal, and especially in some emerging countries, that's just, as you mentioned, a newer trend and something to keep in mind. Akira, last but not least, what's your thoughts on these questions? Oh, unmute yourself.
I have many colleagues, female colleagues, working mother. They're willing to work from home, remote work, to spend more time with the kids and family. And that's also good for me. And I think even though our COVID crisis is gone away, but those people will not give up those kind of rights. And also big difference is in Tokyo is commuting. I worked in Japan for 30 years, and packed train in the morning in Tokyo is crazy. And then now most of the office companies taking the measure to reduce the office workers to 50% or less than 50%, that kind of percentage. So I can sit in the train even in a peak time. So that's very amazing for us. And also if I work on the days I work from home, I can go to the swimming pool to my swimming practice 1.5 hours before work. That's good for me.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so the pace of the business is slower, but I think I'm getting back the more quality of life. Drinking, I spend most of the nights in weekdays with customers and friends. Younger days, I spend 4 or 5 days a week for those dining out and drinking. But nothing this currently. And then I thought I was a kind of person who can live without beer, but I feel thinking beer is necessary for my work life. Like, that's big change to me.
Sure, sure.
But as a manager of the office, I'm having difficulty in managing team. I have many challenges to create or foster and maintain the teamwork of the team members.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think both, I was just reading an article the other day, like you were saying with, you know, the mass transit or subways being a little lighter, that, you know, they're seeing that more in New York City, and, you know, will that return? And yeah, and absolutely, as far as those challenges of supervision or just managing people via Zoom. But that's a good segue into kind of the next question I want to pose to the group, is that, you know, what, and maybe we'll include supervision or management within this question, but with the pandemic, what is the impact you've been either seeing on your management of others, or just the impact on trade and business travel between countries? Is it easier now with a lot of things being Zoom, or are we missing a lot by not having that face-to-face interaction? And I'll pose that question first to Ed.
Okay, you asked the right person. I just gone from I'm physically in Pasadena right now. That's why you can see that the outside of my window is still dark. I flew from Hong Kong to Pasadena last Friday, and it was a very pleasant experience because the plane was only 1/3 full. The airports are basically empty, and I just whisked through the whole process, and without a hitch, and it was very enjoyable. And you know, back to what Akira was pointing out, you know, like yes, it's true, the family life, the personal life, the health side, and I also want to point out the environment, because the slowing of economic activities back in Hong Kong, we can see the blue skies again. So that was a rare sight. So on top of what you're experiencing in the Tokyo traffic. But what I like to point out here is what also back responding to what Akira was saying. Yes, we are seeing some sector of the business not doing as well, or sector of economy not doing as well as others. So our view is we look at it as a lot of new opportunities, to the point where our company individually, we speak for ourselves, that we probably be more getting in the acquisition mode from here on for the next year or so. So it's for us, we think it's a blessing in disguise. So yeah, but otherwise the slowing of economy, the working from home, is I agree with what Akira and the Marianna and Lakeesha said.
Thank you. Lakeesha, what are you seeing?
In terms of the commuting and travel and working from home, specifically,
Sure.
You know, it's interesting because Thailand has done an exceptional job in terms of managing the pandemic. I think, and then on the flip side to that, it's really closed its borders, quite frankly. So we have, you know, people on our team who are outside of the country and they can't come back in. Or there was a woman that we were in the process of hiring. She was working at another institution, but because of the type of visa that she needed first to return to Myanmar, which is an hour flight between Bangkok and Yangon. So she had to quarantine for 14 days in a hotel in Yangon, and then another 14 days at home. And the embassy is closed, so she's not able to get her visa. So she's been working remotely. First of all, she quarantined for 28 total days, and she's still not able to come back in. And so from a productivity standpoint, yes, she's still able to work. And what I found is that some people are working a lot more and maybe beyond the healthy standard. You know, so when there's the expectation, particularly during lockdown, everyone knew that their colleagues were at home, you know, so it was not uncommon for people to, you know, send something that normally would come at 9 o'clock the next morning at 3 a.m., you know, either because they're not able to sleep or because there's this sense of, well, when do I stop working and when can I relax? And so I think it goes back to the mental health and some of the work-life balance pieces that Akira was talking about earlier.
For sure, absolutely. Akira, anything to add on that?
Yes. In my business, we were supposed to start our new office in Singapore earlier this year. And then we planned for the last 2-3 years. And then this is the year we really promote our new business in Singapore and Southeast Asia. But because of this pandemic, we had to postpone our plan. And then I was supposed to visit those area monthly basis starting earlier January of this year, but I was not able to do it. I started communication with those business partners through Zoom and other web-based communication. And then it is easy. It's easy to, those people are more acceptive to those kind of communication. So currently the environment helped me to establish the access and make access those business contact. And then I feel it's easy to exchange or get information, but I'm not sure how I can establish, build a strong relationship with the person in business. I have my way of doing this in face-to-face in my career, but I have to find out a new way to build such kind of things through screens. I'm not sure how to do it. It's easy to exchange information, but I think we need something human to build a real relationship, business tie, and so that's going to be a challenge to me, but not only to me, but for many people. But I think that's going to be a new protocol, new normal. But it's going to be challenging.
Sure. Well, and one thing, as I've gotten to know Akira on his time with the board, is that you know, to your point about making those personal connections and being proactive and you know, networking with others, that you've been a great champion and proponent of that across the Asia Pacific region. So I just wanted to use this opportunity to thank you for that. And if you don't know Akira, definitely feel free to reach out to him. Marianna, from your industry and perspective, what are you experiencing?
Yeah. So definitely it gives us a lot of challenges, and especially when you are managing a global team and more than 20 nations. And so if you cannot feel the people and how you are going to lead the team. So that's always a day and night question, and to me and also my entire HQ team. So and also a lot of business activities have to be forced to be stopped. And like some joint ventures, and we shift some facilities and to the other countries. And because the borders at different countries are still closed, so we cannot proceed those projects as we planned. So, and also you see that, so for the exhibition, and usually for our industry, and it's very common way and to acquire new customers and to promote the brand. And however, so for instance, like IFA in Berlin, and so that's a very important show, and CES in Vegas and every January. And so we all need to be very creative and how to continue and how to resume the business and how to continue the business, and also how to have the human touch with our team members. So very creative one. And so one of my colleagues, and also he is the alumni, one of the alumni of U of M. And so he sits as my neighbor, and he has like a virtual drinking activity and with his global team. So that's also give them a lot of fun. So when they achieve some milestone and they celebrate, and I do believe that if there is some technology and so we can see each other, but still we can feel each other, probably that can give a better experience and for everybody. Yeah.
Sure. No, and I love that point that you bring up, because I think sometimes whatever industry we're in, you know, we're in these Zoom meetings where it's meeting, and we maybe don't take as much time to set up those opportunities, whether it's a virtual happy hour or just more something to connect socially, to connect with others and see how they're doing, you know, how the kids are, things like that. And so I think that's absolutely important as far as recognizing, you know, obviously there will be work, but keeping in mind the human factor. And I think you've all been touching on that. Moving into just another question, and maybe this is more of an individual question for each of you, as you approach your respective work areas. How are you staying productive? What tips would you have for others? And I'll have Lakeesha start with this question.
Oh, that's a great question. You know, I think during the height of the lockdown, I was moving into a space of paranoia, I guess. I think partially because there was someone in my office tower who was hospitalized before there was a national lockdown. And so several of us who happened to have been 3 floors below this individual, we had to go into lockdown earlier than everyone else. And then another colleague had 2 people in his condo. And so I think we were psyching each other out, you know? And so I was talking with a cousin who's more like a big sister, and she could tell that I was spiraling into this other place. And she said, when was the last time you were out, like outside of your condo? And I said, I think it's been like 4 days. And she said, well, go out, you know? And I said, well, because I live in a building, and if I go to the building, I'm gonna have to use the elevator. I don't have my private entrance. And she said, take the stairs. And so I built this habit of going to the rooftop and watching the sunset every night. And so something that was so simple, built a routine of having a natural stopping point, or at least a bookmark for the workday, because I'd want to catch the sunset. And then just breathing the fresh air and seeing other neighbors who were out doing the same. I thought, okay, I guess I can actually interact with people from a distance, watch them play with their dogs and be okay. So for me, it's really been around connecting with nature. And now that, you know, our case count is quite low officially, I've been doing that at a broader level. So going to a floating market or going to, you know, just really enjoy the nature has been good for me on the weekends.
Yeah, no, and I love your point about just, especially whether it's in your work, home life, is establishing those bookmarks or times where, you know, I am going to go catch the sunset. I am going to get out and take a walk. You know, I need to be better about that in Minnesota in the summer months before it turns into a freezer here in the winter months, and you know it isn't as pleasurable to get out. Ed, how are you approaching staying productive in your work?
I agree with Lakeesha. You know, like setting the bookmark and setting some routine and schedules is very important. But also the attitude, being optimistic, is like, you know, this is going to be over soon. You know, we can't have this forever. You know, the vaccine is around the corner. So having that little positive attitude that we're seeing the end of the tunnel is almost over, I think that helps too.
Thank you, Ed. Marianna, what tips would you have for others?
Yep. So I think that you need to, so I agree with both. And so routine life is very important. So I changed my schedule. And so our official work-off time is 6 o'clock. But actually that we are working so all around the clock. So usually I work out for 1 hour, a half to 1 hour every day. And then I go to meetings, so that gives me a lot of energy. And during the weekends, I never work. So spend time with the family and enjoy this quality time. And I also assume that after the vaccines are available and people will be busier and busier. So yeah, enjoy the quality time with family is also very, very precious. Yeah, reading and also gives you a lot of power. Yeah.
Sure, thank you. Akira.
Yeah, I think talking would be the very good things to keep our mental health. When I started teleworking in February, I felt very strong stress for working at home because I didn't know how to do it, and then initially I spent most of my time to responding to my emails, and then when I work at the office, I was kind of able to control the flow of information, flow of inquiry, or that kind of change orders, or but sitting at home and watching the email. And then constantly I received emails from colleagues or my boss and customers, and then it was very crazy, and then I felt very, very exhausted. But I realized, yeah, phone call may help to, rather than responding to email, but make a call. And also I talk to my family, and then spend more time with other people. Speaking is talking to other people may help you in many ways. And then to be productive, I think we have to utilize multiple ways of communication, not only email, not only video communication, but in my case, after I send the email to my a colleague, if it is important, I try to make a phone call after that to make sure he received it and he understands correctly. That kind of detailed or more detailed communication would help you to be productive in remote working.
Thank you. Yeah, and we won't have to deep dive on it, but I know at least with some of these tips, we had someone on the chat just kind of inquiring about keeping employees motivated and things like that. And I think especially in supervision, you know, just reminding people of you know, setting up those routines and some of the other things that you mentioned, hopefully will be of value. There's two more questions I definitely want to get to the panel in the last 10 minutes that we have. But so the first one would be, as we look ahead into the next year, 2021, from your respective industries and your respective countries, are you more optimistic or concerned about the business environment at the moment? And as we were talking about optimism, I'll start with Ed from his perspective, because yeah, I know I definitely go between the two. As far as some days I'm really optimistic, and then some days I'm not as. And so I appreciate your perspective, Ed, and would love to hear what you're thinking.
This is a tough question, John. Hong Kong is going through some tough times. So you asked me about the city I'm living at and the environment that I'm in. So we're pretty unique. And I think COVID is the last thing that is going to affect us in the long term. We are seeing some fundamental changes to our system, you know, on the legal environment, on the governance, the quality of the governance. So I would say, I mean, COVID will come and it will go. But some of those structural changes we're going through, that's worry a lot of us. And it is something that is a big concern. So from that perspective, on the geographic situation, I think most people I know are not as optimistic for 2021. But I don't know. But there could be other sectors that we're not as familiar with.
Sure. Marianna, what's your perspective from mainland China?
For mainland China, I think because you know the Chinese people and we have savings, right? If I'm not talking about the global business and just talk about Chinese market, and so those savings and definitely and also we released the lockdown in very early of the year, so starting from February, and we resumed to work. So I think that if you talk about mainland China 2021, I should say among the countries and probably in China will performing better. And since the central government is also pumping money into the market, and so despite that there is some tensions between U.S. and however the market China itself is big enough, and if you see the GDP, and basically it's much more above the average, and so and we also see that the consumers and basically especially for our industry, and so we see new trend and of the consumers, and they eat at home and have fun at home, and so this is something that is what they want. So home appliance becomes what they need. So yeah, we see some promising side and for our business in China market. Yeah.
Thank you. Akira.
Okay. Some people say that COVID-19 is itself is not a new challenge to the people, to the economy. Rather, it's the COVID. Because of COVID, we will see the existing or long-term issues. Then that's long-term issue become more imminent or immediate. For example, climate change, and in Japan, it's delayed digitalization, and we have to cope with those old existing challenges because of this event. And then I feel the business is going to be polarized. Good company or potential good company is going to be more grow faster or bigger, and then those businesses who have existing issues is going to be fail faster than expected. So that would happen, and then my industry, financial industry, has a different function. One is the investment side. The asset managers who make equity investment, for those people, that is a great opportunity, as Ed mentions, that people may find a good investment from the equity investment or M&A perspective. But for banks, we are also providing debt. From debt providers, it's very, very challenging. We will see more default or more business failure for later this year and the next year. Airline industry, hotels, and retail. So that's going to be a big challenge for us. So from my business perspective, I'm very cautious about the coming years.
Thank you. Lakeesha.
I would agree with Akira's, particularly his closing point. Thailand, as I mentioned earlier, is, it's highly dependent on tourism. And so while there have been incentives to increase domestic tourism, I think that the economy relies on the Europeans that take 6-week holidays, or, and something that we obviously know nothing about in the U.S. and maybe in Hong Kong or China. But I think that because we are also interdependent on other economies, we're collectively tethered to one another. And so it's interesting because in some ways there's a rise in xenophobia, or, oh, where are you from? I was out with a Thai friend and another US friend. As I mentioned, we went to a floating market this weekend and we were buying a coconut, and the man we bought the coconut from, he said, "Where are you from?" And I said, "The US." He said, "How did you get in?" And I thought that he meant to the market, and I thought, no, he means into the country. And he heard the United States, like, stay away, right? So I think that there's this natural, level of protectionism that people have, but at the same time, we're dependent on one another. So we need tourists, but we've got to figure this out together.
Thank you for sharing that perspective. We have about 4 minutes left, so as this is an alumni panel and all of you spent time at the University of Minnesota, want to get from each of you maybe one career lesson that you learned from your time as a student at the University of Minnesota and in studying there. And Lakeesha, I'll go right back to you to lead it off.
Okay. So many lessons, but I think that the key for me was authenticity and authentic leadership. I had somewhat of a unique student experience in that I served on the Board of Regents as I was finishing my doctoral program, and so I wore different hats. And I saw that in some cases my experiences were different if people saw me as a regent versus a doctoral student versus, fill in the blank. But what I learned from my colleagues and what I learned during that time was that it's good and it's okay to be our authentic self, in terms of building relationships, as Akira has mentioned, in terms of leadership, in terms of connecting with other people. So authenticity is something that I've taken with me from my time at the U.
Thank you. Marianna, what would you say, what's one thing that you've taken away from your time at the University of Minnesota?
So I really want to go back to the class, and I took my M.B.A. so back to 2013, so that was 7 years back. And that time I was the regional sales director, and basically after several years, and now I become a true global leader. And then all the lessons I learned and from Carson and Basic Works, right? And so I really want to have the chance and to go back and have another chance and to learn more. And thanks for the journey and appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Akira.
Okay, when I studied in Minnesota, I was 22 or 23 years old, and I was young and a shy boy, and I was not able to speak up in front of the people. But I was kind of benefited from the inclusiveness, generosity of to different culture of University of Minnesota and the culture of Minnesota, I think. And then I turned, that shy boy turned to be a more active person. And then I realized that I could change myself and then others, and also I could change the situation around me. So now my motto, the word I like is change is always good. So I think that's gonna be right on this situation too. Thanks to Minnesota, I think.
Thank you, Akira. And last but not least, Ed, would love to hear what you took away from the University of Minnesota as well.
Thank you, John. I am probably the oldest in this group, so you're asking me to dig back into memory that goes back 40 years. But I would say, I thought about this a little bit. The thing that gave me the most experience, or the I remember the most, is of course the Minnesota winter. It's not just the winter itself, but we talk about cabin fever. It's not very different from what we're going through with COVID. So we were trained early on for this challenge. But the more important is the winter give you a certain challenge and build up your resiliency to cope with different situations. For a sudden Asian boy, never seen snow and learn how to walk on ice was a challenge. So all that is build up a certain aspect of me that I will try to look at things from a different perspective, or from the other side's perspective. And I think that's my biggest takeaway from Minnesota.
Oh, thank you for that. And we do not have ice yet, but it'll come. But before we wrap up, I do want to again thank my colleague Tim Wolf, and also allow him an opportunity just to say some closing remarks.
Thanks, John. First, thanks to you, John, and the Alumni Association for hosting this event and moderating a great discussion. Second, to the four panelists, really appreciate your time and sharing this evening. Ed, good morning in California, but really appreciate your time and telling people your insights from this kind of interesting and crazy 2020. Ed, appreciate you being on the vanguard of visitors from Asia back to the US, and hopefully we'll have more people coming to visit Minnesota and the US soon, and I'm looking forward to being able to get back to Asia as soon as possible as well. To the point, Akira, Marianna, if we can do some virtual happy hours, maybe we should put that on the schedule soon as well, and we can try and make that time work. And for all the panelists and participants, any thoughts, questions, feedback you have, please feel free to email, WhatsApp, WeChat, send your thoughts to us. We want to continue this engagement on behalf of the Alumni Association and Foundation with our valued alumni around the world. And again, thanks to everybody for the time this morning, this evening, today. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I absolutely echo Tim's sentiments for the time that Ed and Marianna and Akira and Lakeesha have given this morning, this evening, and just so appreciative of when we can get alumni together to share their perspectives, because we are truly a global community, and just so appreciative to each of you for your time. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay healthy. Bye.
Have a good one, guys. Thanks. Take care.
Bye.
And thanks to everyone who joined today. And that's the conclusion of today's webinar. Again, this will be recorded, and we'll get the link back up to registrants, and will be on the Alumni Association's website. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, great morning, wherever you are. Skayuma.